Alright, also look. Ooh, welcome back to the channel. And guess what? It's fight week. And UFC 312 is going down this weekend live at the Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney, Australia, with the main event featuring the former middleweight champion of the world as well as current #1 middleweight ranked contender, the always rowdy brand risk himself, Sean Strickland, facing off against the current UFC undisputed middleweight champion of the world, dricusduplessis. And in today's video, we're going to be going over my main card breakdown, analysis, as well as predictions on UFC 312's main card, as well as also speed running through my early prelims as well as regular prelim predictions as well. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get right in to the video. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share so you can help me reach 2,000 subscribers by May. I'll deeply appreciate you. And make sure you join the official UFC Discord, link in the description. Alright, so look, in this video, I'm going to be speedrunning through my early prelims as well as regular prelim predictions, and then later getting into more detailed breakdowns once we've reached the main card. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin with the curtain jerker. The first fight of the night, where we've got a bout between Naim Jargal Tenennembaral taking on Hung Sung Park, where I've got Hung Sung Park taking the dub by unanimous decision. Next up on the card, we've got a lightweight bout between Quillan Sakhild versus Enchel Jubilee. And this is low-key a tough one, but I've got Quillan Sakhild by either third round KO or unanimous decision. Moving up on the card, we've got Kevin Jousset taking on Jonathan McAuliffe, where I've got Kevin Jousset by unanimous decision. And now last, but certainly not least, for the early prelim fights, where we've got Cody Steele taking on Rong Zhu in a lightweight bout, where I've got Cody Steele by unanimous decision. Moving on to the first fight of the regular prelims, where we've got a bout between two bantamweight debutantes. The Australian native, as well as the main training partner of Alexander the Great Volkanovski, Colby Thickness, taking on the 5-1 but UFC undefeated Georgian Spaniard, the elder brother as well as coach to the one and only Ilia El Matador Topuria, Alexandre El Conquistador Topuria. And for this fight, I'll be taking Alexandre El Conquistador by round 2 TKO. Don't let us down, Alexandre. Next up on the card, we've got a women's flyweight bout between Bruno Brazil versus Wong Kong, where I've got Bruno Brazil by unanimous decision. Moving up on the card, we've got a bout between Tom Nolan versus Vyacheslav Borshev, where I'll be taking Vyacheslav Borshev by either round 1 or 2 KO over Tom Nolan. Now, for the last fight on the prelims, we've got Jack Jenkins taking on Gabriel Santos in a flyweight bout. And I'll be taking Jack Jenkins by either second round TKO or unanimous decision. And now for the main card, where we've got a welterweight curtain jerker bout between Jake Matthews and Francisco Prado. And look, y'all, I'm gonna be taking Jake Matthews to get the win on this one. And you see, honestly, I just don't necessarily see much in Prado's game, to be frank. Like, sure, he's gritty with some decent durability and can defo pack a punch, but beyond that, there's really not that much to his skill set. But then on the other hand, we've got Jake Matthews, who's undoubtedly got the experience advantage. I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2014. And on top of that, he's pretty well-rounded, but I wouldn't go as far as to say elite in any specific area, just an overall balanced fighter through and through. And, you know, I think that's gonna be enough in order to handle someone like Francisco Prado. That is why I've got Jake Matthews winning this by unanimous decision. Next up on the card, we've got Jimmy Crude taking on Rodolfo Bellato. And you see, I'm gonna be taking Rodolfo Bellato on this one. I mean, there's really not much for me to say for this fight, really, because, Crute hasn't won a fight since 2020 when he lost a doctor stoppage to Anthony Smith, of all people. And since then, he's been on a 3-fight losing streak. On top of that, he's been out of the game for over a year, where on the other hand, Rodolfo Bellato has been on a 4-fight winning streak. And while the in-cage experience does go to Crute, I do believe that Rodolfo Bellato's abilities should be enough in order to get the job done early. That is why I've got Rodolfo Bellato by 2nd to 3rd round TKO over Jimmy Crute. Next up, for the featured fight of the night, we've got the bad man, Justin Tafa, taking on the Dana White Contender Series debutant, Taliesin Teixeira. And look, even though I did talk hella stuff about never picking a Tafa brother in any of my predictions ever again, I'm gonna be going with the bad man on this one. I mean, look, when watching Teixeira on the Contender Series, I wasn't really that impressed at all, honestly. And look, Teixeira is a big guy, standing at a whopping 6'7". But man, when watching him on the Contender Series, I did notice that he was eating some nasty shots from the Arthur Lopez fellow, albeit before he inevitably put him out in the first round. But mind you, Lopez is just a significantly smaller human being than Tafa is. And so when watching Teixeira's performance against Arthur Lopez and seeing the hits he was getting hit by from a way smaller heavyweight than Tafa is, it just makes me believe that if Teixeira were to get stung like that from a nasty, pure 265er KO artist like Tafa is, then he's going to sleep Austin Lane style. That is why I've got Justin Big Man Tafa by 1st round KO against Taliesin Teixeira. And now for the co-main event of the evening, where we've got the undisputed strawweight champion of the world, Weili Zhang Weili, taking on the #1 ranked contender of the world, Tatiana Suarez. And look, even though on paper this fight is super duper close, I mean, other than Rose Namajunas, no one else within the UFC has really yet to find that missing variable of the equation that is Zhang Weili. And Tatiana Suarez is a bona fide wrestling phenom who has yet to taste defeat in her entire professional career. I think we're gonna be hearing and still by the end of the night. And look, if this fight would have happened like maybe 2 years earlier, before Tatiana's injury in 2023, I probably would have leaned heavily towards Suarez, especially with Weili at the time not being the absolute freak of nature that she is today. But now we've seen how much she's evolved, and Weili is absolutely such a balanced fighter from top to bottom. And to that point, I actually believe that Zhang Weili is the pound for pound best women's mixed martial artist in the UFC currently, but I digress. But when it comes down to this fight, I believe that Tatiana Suarez will 100% resort to her wrestling early, and it'll maybe give her a slight edge earlier on in the earlier rounds. But, as the fight goes on, I do see Zhang Weili acclimating to the pressure, maybe stuffing Tatiana Suarez's takedowns, and, obviously start to cook Tatiana in the striking exchanges. And as the fight keeps going on, I see that she'll gradually start to outclass Tatiana Suarez everywhere and take the dub by unanimous decision. Not to mention, Tatiana Suarez has been extremely inactive, obviously due to the injury, of course, but like I always say, do not bet on fighters coming off of humongously long layoffs, especially coming off of injuries. And I just believe that ring rust will be very detrimental for her moving forward. That is why I've got Weili Zhang Weili by unanimous decision over Tatiana Suarez. And now for the main event of the evening, where we've got the rematch between the former middleweight champion of the world as well as #1 ranked middleweight contender, Sean Strickland, going up against the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, dricusduplessis. And I'm going to be going with dricusduplessis on this one. And look, you see, I'm actually one of the individuals that gave the first fight to Sean Strickland. And if I can remember correctly, I think I gave Strickland rounds 1, 2, and 5. But regardless, the fight was razor close and was probably one of the closest title fights in UFC history, if you ask me. That being said, since their initial fight, if you were to ask me who I believed developed the most since then, I would easily go with dricusduplessis. And look, I get it. We all don't like how this cat fights. I mean, he's goofy, unorthodox, and like what Dana White says, fights like how a white man dances. Whatever that means. But you can't sit there and tell me that regardless of what I just said, dricusduplessis isn't evolving and getting better and better. I mean, who in their right minds would have thought that dricusduplessis was going to outclass and outstrike Israel Adesanya on the feet and be the first man to ever submit the last stylebender? I mean, shit, I know I didn't. All I'm saying is that dricusduplessis deserves his flowers. I mean, his takedown control is getting a lot better, his shot selection on the feet has gotten a lot sharper, and his cardio is much more solid than it used to be. And, you know, now that I think about it, remember when people thought that Dricus had zero gas tank? Yikes. On the flip side, while Sean Strickland is and has remained a high-level combatant, his style hasn't necessarily evolved in any way. I mean, he did only fight Paulo Costa, but my point still stands. And you see, it's always been the same approach when it comes to Sean Strickland. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's what makes picking Sean this time around a hell of a lot difficult than it's supposed to be. He's just got no path to victory other than a decision, which is highly unlikely this time around because 1, he ain't the champ no more, and 2, they're in Australia, and you know they don't like his ass. And you see, I just believe that overall, Sean Strickland's what we like to call a one-trick pony. A high-level one-trick pony, don't get it twisted, but still a one-trick pony nonetheless. I just think that once you've been in there with him once, you start to figure him out and you know what his game plan is. And I just think that that's exactly what's gonna happen in there with dricusduplessis. I think Dricus will land the cleaner shots, the more damaging shots, and will likely mix in his takedowns effectively and will win this a lot more decisively than he did initially. And while I don't see a finish, the probability isn't impossible. That is why I've got dricusduplessis winning this fight against Sean Strickland by either a unanimous decision or maybe a 4th round TKO. But it all doesn't matter because whoever wins on Saturday night is just the placeholder for the real 185-pound champion, and that's Khamzat Chimaev. But I digress. But that about wraps up the video. Let me know in the comment section below, who do you guys have for UFC 312? Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez and dricusduplessis versus Sean Strickland. Let me know in the comment section below. But that about wraps up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.